What's up, everybody? Chaos Bikes and Beta Motorcycles presents. This is the three-wheeler engine disassembly and rebuild part 2. We're rebuilding this engine. So we're starting right where we left off. Getting them piston rings on, lining up the piston. Make sure the wrist pin's gonna slide right in. Cracking that fresh wrist pin out of there. Lovely. Start going at it this side. And I'm like, yeah, it's not quite right. So swap it to the other side. Yeah, it has to go in perfectly square or it won't go in. It's machined like super perfect. Getting that in place there, and now we've got to deal with these brutally difficult circlips. These are like super thin wire circlips. They have no peg on them to grab or anything, so it's a lot of dinking around. I cut out several more fails to save some time, but yeah, it was a bunch of work. I'm just pushing the wrist pin over to hit that other circlip now. Make sure everything's flushed up nice. Putting in the second one. And it really is not that easy. Just moving it back into place, making sure it's in that little groove where it sits. Bada bing, bada boom. Pulling this rag out. This rag saved my ass a bunch with those circlips. That's why you always pack your case. You don't want those circlips falling in there. It'll be a real nightmare for you. Don't forget your base gasket. Be careful, you don't want to rip it either. In this case, I'm reusing the old ones, but I always suggest that you just put new ones in. Make sure you keep that chain up. Don't drop it in the case. Now we're going to work on putting the jug on here. Slide that up, but don't let your tensioner pop out like I did. You can see it on the left side there. You can't put it together with that popped out anyway. You'll see a notice here in a sec. I'm like, oh damn. So, moving that jug back up, trying not to lose the chain. Putting that tensioner back where it's supposed to go. Hooking that chain back up so I can work on some other stuff here. Now we gotta finesse these piston rings in there. Of course, you gotta squeeze the rings opposite of where the gap is, or I guess 90 degrees to where the gap is on both sides. Sometimes some oil will make that a bit easier. And there we go. That's seated into place nicely. And we got to put that head gasket on. Again, I'm just reusing my old ones, but you should always put a new one in there. Now we're gonna line up the head here, make sure everything fits together properly. That cam chain's just a nightmare. It's always in the way. A little spin to make sure everything's engaged. Now we're gonna pop in that weird looking bolt for the tensioner. Make sure that stays in place. And that long vertical one is next. It's gonna hook the head to the jug to the case. We'll just tighten that down lightly for now. figuring out which way the cam goes. There's a little peg on that back bearing there. You got to be really careful that it goes down into the hole where it's supposed to go, or you'll make a real mess of your parts. I'm pushing on the chain tensioner there to loosen it up so we can get that chain over the cam. Making sure it's all engaged. Now we're going to check if everything's lined up. And no, it's not quite. So we're going to pull off the chain again, get on that chain tensioner. Just going to flip it over one tooth. Making sure everything's lined up. Now I'm just double checking that that pin is in the right place on the cam there. Looking good. Now we're going to pull out some Moto Seal RTV and we'll add a healthy coating of that. And no gasket actually goes here, it's just RTV. And that's how it's designed from factory. That's what it tells you in the manual, believe it or not. Now we got to get in there and get those rockers onto the valves. Just flip them up. And now we bolt it back together. So you got your 4 copper washers, your cap nuts. You also got those 4 Allen keys that go on the top there. Screwing those in now. Torquing it all down. Getting some actual tension on it. Now we're going to put the CDI back together. I'm still using those homemade gaskets because at this point I didn't know that was the problem. But that's alright. And it looks like it went in bad there, but it didn't. It was perfectly straight. Now we're going to put the rotor on. It only goes one way. There's a peg in there. And now we're going to put on the coil. Screw that all together. Make sure that this bolt here is pretty tight. You can even use a little bit of Loctite on it. You don't want that coming loose. That'll cause a whole bunch of problems while you're riding. And these things don't have rear suspension, so they rattle themselves apart pretty good. The gasket only goes on one way. Once you get it right, cover it up. Screw that back together. Now we're going to tighten down that vertical bolt and anything else that may not be tight. Double check everything. Put another coat of RTV on the starter. This is completely unnecessary, but I like to do it anyways. In the first part you saw how hard the starter was to get off, so just adds a bit of extra strength to everything. Tighten that guy down, and that's it for now. Stay tuned for more. Like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.